Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Afternoons with Anthony. I'm your host, Anthony Savage. Today, we are joined by Cindy Andrews, President and CEO of the Community Foundation of Lorain County. Cindy, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's awesome to have you here to talk about the Community Foundation, and I know we have some great information to cover this afternoon. I want to start out today by thanking all of our viewers and all of those in our community that work so hard together to bring about a better future for all of us. You're all amazing. Keep fighting the good fight, everyone. Better days, they are ahead. Now, before I forget, I want to remind all of you that are watching to like, share, and subscribe to stay informed about the future Wellington content coming out very soon. It helps us reach more viewers just like you. And again, Cindy, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Anthony, thank you so much. And I would have to do a shout out as well to all the folks in Wellington. I'm so appreciative of the invitation today. And as you have suggested for people to like and share, our website is peoplewhocare.org. And so many of your viewers are already receiving our newsletter, but you can also click, and if there's things that we talk about today and they'd like to learn more about, they can go to our Facebook page or our website and get some additional details.
Yeah, definitely check it out, everyone. And I will post in the description below where you can click on those links and get connected that way.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Cindy. So I believe that this year is a big year for the Community Foundation here in Lorain County. How many years are you guys celebrating in 2020?
Well, thank you for setting that stage, Anthony. Absolutely. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary. And who would have thought that in the midst of all of this, that we would be celebrating 40 years of connecting people who care with causes that matter. And as we began the end of last year to plan for our 40th anniversary, our board very generously set aside $40,000 to help build endowments of local nonprofits. And as you can imagine, part of our focus and mission is really connecting, but also making sure nonprofits across Lorain County continue to thrive. And so we set aside that $40,000 to help build endowments. And endowments, as you know, Anthony, and your listeners know, really are about rainy day funds. Right. And for some of your listeners that were with us at our annual meeting last week, we talked about how it's not just raining right now, but there are storms. And so how do we continue to support those nonprofits? And so we've taken that $40,000 and now made those dollars available to our nonprofits through a Connect to a Cause Day. And so, Anthony, it's our Lorain County fundraising day on Thursday, September 17th. And would be delighted to share with any of your listeners that might be interested in joining folks like Main Street Wellington, who are participating in that day, and we'll be celebrating all of Lorain County on Thursday, September 17th.
Awesome. Is this the first day of its kind?
So great question. And for us at the Community Foundation of Lorain County, we've not done something like this in the past, but you see some of your larger cities doing it. So recently, a day of caring in Columbus or in Erie. Big Give Days, yes. Yeah. Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And so this was our way of connecting people who care with causes that matter and really honoring and showcasing 40 plus nonprofits here in Lorain County. And right now we're up to 48 entities that have raised their hand and said, please include me in the day.
That's awesome. And I really just look forward to seeing how that does benefit our county and our community going forward, past 2020 into the future, 100%.
Absolutely. Well, and I have to thank you because Wellington was so involved in our annual meeting. If you think about a 40th anniversary, you're going to have a party, you're going to come together at a brand new hotel in downtown Lorain and celebrate. And we weren't able to do that. And so rather than just defer and say, well, we'll do it in the fall, Anthony, we really thought about how we might do this virtually. And as you know, based on your technology here, you can't just say, okay, we were going to do it here and now we're just going to broadcast that. So no, you really need to think about how you might do that differently. And we decided to engage with our local Main Street. So Jenny and the folks at Main Street Wellington were one of our breakout rooms. And so we had our main session at Second Harvest. So much of the work that has been, that we've supported across Lorain County has involved Second Harvest and their 92 food pantries, including the pantry there in Wellington. And so by doing the main session at Second Harvest, we were able to share our message. We showed up with our Community Foundation masks, kept our social distance, but then we're able to use the technology to go into a series of breakouts. And so fortunately
It was a good time.
Well, and Anthony, fortunately for us, Sadie Goebel, a Wellington resident, is on our board. Randy Wagner, former Wellington resident, now a resident at Kendall, is also on our board, and Brian Burke. And so we were able to have a virtual presence as well as working with our main streets. And the other cool thing about that was we had 7 or 8 main streets join us, Anthony, and for someone that might not have been to Wellington before, surprise, surprise, Jenny could stand up and say, and here's what's coming up at Main Street Wellington, and likewise in Amherst and downtown Lorain and Elyria with the Urban League and Vermilion. And so it was a great community gathering, and we're just pleased that folks had a good time and that they were able to tell their story of their local main streets.
Yeah, and I think collaboration on that level going forward be something really impactful for the community. We all need to come together and do what we can to lend a hand to each other and lift each other up, especially in the wake of everything we've been dealing with in our country the last few months.
Yeah, and Anthony, I don't know how else you do it, to be honest with you. There's just so much work to be done, and I think so many folks have great ideas and yet might need help pulling those ideas together. And through collaboration, I think we're able to do so much more than we would be able to do individually.
Without a doubt, many hands, they make light work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. So at the Community Foundation in Lorain County, what would you say would be a differentiator for them? What makes you guys different than other organizations of your kind?
Well, I think the key word in our name really is community. And so folks can decide that they are interested in supporting an organization like a Main Street or like Herrick Memorial Library, or a local food bank, food pantry. And they could do that, but they could also do that through their local community foundation. And so as the needs change, as different priorities arise, like COVID-19, we were able to pull together a COVID-19 response fund where 8 funders came together, and we started with $80,000. And Anthony, that number has grown to $225,000.
That's incredible.
And the beauty of that is it's not the community foundation just making the decisions, it's bringing folks together from the Urban League, from El Centro, from Second Harvest, who really see the needs within the community, and they were then able to evaluate a series of grants, select those that could receive up to $10,000. And Anthony, the following Tuesday, we were able to write the check to those particular nonprofits. So it truly was an emergency response fund. And I think that's the beauty of a community foundation. And so regardless of where your listeners are, there probably is a community foundation or a regional foundation that they might be able to work with. And then we're also able to provide legacy funds and legacy donations so that as someone is planning for future retirement or estate planning, they're able to sit down with one of our staff members and really talk about what is it that makes the most sense to them and what is the legacy that they'd like to leave for their community.
So aside from that particular emergency fund that was put together, are there any new projects or other grants that are being created in the wake of the COVID crisis?
So in the wake of the COVID crisis, if you think of March 17th as when all of this really, I think the governor closed things that Friday or the Friday before, through a very generous donor, because again, we connect people who care with causes that matter. We were able to make an initial award of $250,000 to Second Harvest. And so independent of the Emergency Response Fund, Julie and her team knew that the Community Foundation, through our donors, was able to support an all of a sudden increase in need across how many different communities. And so we think of a population of Lorain County as about 300,000, and she has now served upwards of 80,000 individuals. And so by being able to do that, Anthony, we were able to be really responsive up front. The second thing we did was we stood up the emergency response fund. But then the third thing we did, Anthony, we have a grant cycle coming up, a community grant cycle on July 1st. I'm holding up the card, it's on our website. But the previous grant cycle, we would have reviewed those grants in the May timeframe, and we moved those emergency grants up a month so that another $500,000 to about 12 organizations, those dollars could arrive sooner than later. And again, being able to be responsive to the needs of those organizations. So I do like to think that we're as responsive as we can be, and regardless of the organization in Wellington or across Lorain County that would like to talk about how they might do things differently. We have school endowment funds at each of our schools. We have 14 public schools and so many independent schools in Lorain County, and again, support all of those as well.
That's great. How did the Community Foundation get started?
Well, it's an interesting story 40 years ago. Through the generosity of the Nord family. And so Eric and Evan Nord and the Nordson Corporation, we were started. I don't know that it was a small conference room there or a small office there, but three gentlemen who came together and really saw the need and the ability to be able to bring folks together. Our annual report is available on our website today. And as you open the cover, you just get a sense of the individuals, Anthony, over the course of 40 years who, through their volunteer efforts, really have been able to come together. And it's Lorain County. And these are people who care. And whether it's the $20 check or the legacy donor, really have been able to continue to support the great work in this community.
So I would encourage all of our viewers to get plugged in to the Community Foundation. If you have the ability to help them further their mission, help in any way you can, volunteer, get connected with the community organizations that are definitely benefiting from the Community Foundation. All of that help, it really goes so far, and it means so much to so many people in our community. And like we've already talked about, especially during this time with the world being in an upheaval, battling against a virus, we need to shine as much light as we can. So let's all get together and help out as much as we can.
Well, Anthony, the other thing I'll share with your listeners is in calendar year 2019, we distributed $6.2 million in grants and scholarships. And again, it's through the generosity of those donors over 40 years that have enabled us to do that. But this past Friday, we distributed almost $300,000 in scholarships to Lorain County students. And so for folks that have driven by our office, we're blessed to have a roundabout driveway. And so as we've seen so many graduations now become these drive-throughs, we literally had flags. So we had the Ohio State flag, we had Lorain County Community College, we had OU, we had Kent. And so the scholarship recipients would drive through. We took their picture, Anthony, with their parent or grandparents smiling.
That's
we
awesome.
handed them a Community Foundation cap. They could park their car and then get out and again, socially distant, get a picture with the flag. But Anthony, we'd like to do that for every student. I mean, how great would it be if 40 years from now, not you and I having this conversation, but someone else having this conversation, to be able to say every student in Lorain County has been able to get a scholarship to a career, vocational, or 2 or 4 year institution of their choice, thanks to the Community Foundation. And I think that's the work that coming together that we all can continue to support.
Yeah, looking back on the last 40 years and just seeing how the organization has grown and how it's evolved and changed and adapted to meet more needs than ever, that's not a far cry from the imagination as to what the Community Foundation can accomplish given that amount of time. So it'd be great to watch that, watch the organization continue to grow and help our community thrive. Definitely.
Well, and thanks so much to your listeners and folks in Wellington who are actually volunteers who read all of those college scholarship applications. And so you get to decide what is the criteria. The donor gets to decide what is their criteria. And through a process. We have committees that actually review those scholarships in the March and April timeframe, I guess. And so that our board is then able to award those dollars in prior to the off to school season.
That's great. So being in the office at the foundation, what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, in COVID-19 days, Anthony, what we've done is we have a team of 12. And so we've divided our team in half. And
Okay.
so we have a Tuesday, Thursday team and a Monday, Wednesday team. We really wanted to make sure if someone did get sick, that we were able to still be responsive to the needs of the community. But our office is open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay.
And on any typical morning, we'll be involved in a virtual annual meeting. Neighborhood Alliance had an annual meeting this morning. Some of us were involved in a noon meeting around the Leader Cast, which is every fall, right there in New Russia Township, 200 plus women coming together celebrating with our Women's Fund and those donors. And then this evening, our African American Community Fund has a meeting, and they'll be talking about their fall opportunity, their fall events. And so really on any given day, it's about connecting those members of the community with the work that is at hand. We also hired 2 fellows in the beginning of the year, Anthony, and this was a way to do more intentional work within our community. And so we have a community engagement fellow, and she spends her time in South Lorain. And then we also have a data fellow who's really working with our school endowments and our Connect to a Cause program to really make sure that all of the nonprofits that are participating are able to get the support that they need.
That's awesome. So you guys are growing even in the midst of everything going on. So
Well,
that's
and again,
good
trying
news.
to be responsive. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So what can Main Street Wellington, what can we do as a board, as a community do to help the Community Foundation achieve its goals this year and going forward?
Well, it was great, as I mentioned, with Jenny and the help with the annual meeting. I think that anything that we can do collectively to continue to support Main Street Wellington, but also the scholarship fund in Wellington, through our newsletter, have folks know that the Community Foundation is here. Oftentimes we'll hear of someone passing or someone wanting to create a fund. And we're always happy to do that, but we're also happy to have folks contribute to an existing fund. And so we have 600 plus funds. And Anthony, there might be a field of interest fund because someone's interested in animal rescue. We have 2 rescue dogs at home. And so we have several rescue funds for animals. We certainly have emergency response funds. And then we have agency funds. So if there is something that you're passionate about, whether it's Second Harvest, or another free clinic or another agency of sorts, folks can make online contributions or donations to those organizations.
Awesome. Thanks for explaining that a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. Perfect. And then we do have a youth fund. And so I'm delighted to say that the previous years has been a member of Wellington High School. Grace has been the president of our youth fund. She is now off to college, and yet she was back helping us with our scholarship. And Anthony, this is a group of 28 high school students that come together on Sunday afternoons, Anthony, believe it or not, because that's the only afternoon that these kids are free. And they take a look at what are the needs of the community within the eyes of a high school student. And so they too are then able to allocate grant dollars back out to the community. And so it's been a great opportunity to really engage with youth in our community.
How do youth get connected with that type of thing?
Thank you for that question. Fortunately, most of our high schools are familiar with the program, and through their guidance counselor, we look at 8th or 9th grade students so that they can spend the 4 years with us. And again, on our website, peoplewhocare.org, you can see the application for our youth fund. We also have a women's fund, an African American fund, and a Hispanic fund. And folks are able to fill out an application, and we have members from Wellington also within our women's fund. So it's been a great collaborative effort. But the youth fund, Anthony, literally is one of my favorites because you see the passion within our students, but also the diversity across 14 public school systems.
Yeah.
and the independent schools coming together, but for that Saturday or Sunday afternoon, and really talking about the needs within our community.
And you really get to experience what those needs really are when you have such a wide, assortment of students from all over the area.
Yes,
Part of that.
yes. Yep. And
That's
then we have an intern from Leadership Lorain this summer serving with us. It was her first week on the job with our annual meeting and the scholarship event. And we had probably a half dozen of her Leadership Lorain interns out with us last Friday assisting as well. And Sid is with us, and she's a marketing student at the University of Cincinnati. So again, as students come home for the summer, trying to find opportunities for engagement within the community as well.
great. So Cindy, what is your background? How did you get involved in all of this?
Well, Anthony, thank you for asking that question. I was really fortunate to work with Janet and the folks at the Herrick Memorial Library. Janet was our board chair at Oberlin Community Services when I was part of the food pantry there. And so I had a sense of the needs within the community, and was able to spend about 4 years with the folks in Oberlin, serving not just Oberlin, but the southern part of the county. I was familiar with the Thrive program, which is one of the United Way Southern Lorain County initiatives. And so really had a sense of community, but more from an Oberlin and southern part. And Brian Frederick, who many of your listeners may recall, in fact, Brian was here this morning for coffee. He was the president and CEO for 19 years, and he was retiring. And so I had the opportunity to interview for this position, and really have enjoyed getting back to our mission, which has always been about connecting people who care with causes that matter. And my work in Oberlin has always been about collaboration. And before that, I spent 25 plus years with IBM. And my work at IBM, Anthony, was actually connecting IBM within the community. It just happened to be within Northeast Ohio. So it's always been about community and about connecting members within our community.
So you're a perfect fit.
Well, I enjoy my work, and as you know, we really do need to enjoy the work that we do every day, especially in these times.
Yeah. And if you're doing something that you love and you're passionate about it, it's not so bad, right?
Right, right.
Without a doubt. So amongst everything we've been dealing with in our world today, what would you give our viewers or listeners as one tidbit of advice, to help them get through the coming months and I think help them to deal with and process what we've been going through with the coronavirus thus far?
Well, I do think it's about finding a silver lining every day, and it might not be every hour that you could find that silver lining, but whether it's the start of the day in the morning. My mornings to me are the most peaceful time, and yet I also walk at the end of the day, and some of our sunsets in Lorain County are some of the most beautiful sunsets. And so I think we're also blessed with so many metro parks, and you've got such great parks in Wellington.
Yeah,
and so how do we really take advantage of what's around us? And whether it's, seeing the baby ducks in Lake Erie this time of year, or watching the green grass because we've had so much rain over the last week, just finding that little bit of sunshine every day.
I like that. Silver linings and sunshine, right? Great. And what I know you are representing the whole county, the whole area here, the whole community. But what is your favorite place to eat? Maybe in Wellington, and then maybe your favorite place to eat outside of Wellington.
So inside of Wellington, I want to say, is it Bread and Brew?
Yeah, that's right next to my office.
There you go, Bread and Brew.
Group.
Yes. So I recall meeting with Janet from the library at Bread and Brew, and then I recall them being involved with the Thrive initiative.
Yes.
And actually taking the time to post some of the healthier menu items, and so have really enjoyed there. My husband and I still live in Oberlin, so I have to give a shout out to Lorenzo's Pizza. I know you have good pizza in Wellington as well, but Lorenzo's in Oberlin's a favorite spot of ours.
Yeah, I actually worked at Lorenzo's until I graduated high school.
See?
So I agree. They have awesome food.
Well, and they're Mondays on the patio. He's not doing it this summer because of the virus, but I'm sure you recall the Mondays on the patio, we would all show up with our dogs, and he would give a portion of the proceeds to some of the animal rescue places. So
Yeah,
Larry's a good guy.
yeah. The whole Criglio family, I think they're pretty good folks. It
Hmm.
was a good time working there. It's been quite a while now that I'm going to be 30 in December, but it's been a good time. It's been a good
Yes,
decade since then, I suppose. Um, and they definitely taught me work ethic back then. So
absolutely.
it helped me get where I am today for sure. Now, what is this pandemic? What has the pandemic taught you about yourself? Would you say?
Wow, Anthony, there are only so many hours in a day, right?
Without a
And
doubt.
every day has a new challenge. And so I think being able to be responsive, but also flexible. And, you might think that we're going to do things a certain way, and then all of a sudden, maybe we're not going to do it that way. And so, but how do you embrace and work with a staff who not everyone's been around 40 years, but we have folks here who have been around for 20 plus years. And so we've got a great history within Lorain County. And so how do we continue to support each other? And I think just the fact that we've built flexibility into our workday so that people can work from home, who might still have young children or might be caring for an older parent. And
Right.
so trying to be as flexible as possible.
So flexibility in your day to day is apparent just from the agility of your organization is apparent from all you guys have accomplished since this all started this year with the pandemic. And if just seeing how your organization has dealt with these challenges, I have no doubt that the Community Foundation here in Lorain County is going to be set up for 100, 200 years of success going forward, for sure.
Well, it's a great community, Anthony. And it really is about meeting our donors and honoring our donors' wishes, because everyone does have an individual story and something
Right,
that really has resonated with them. And so how do we honor that?
without a doubt. Now, Cindy, is there anything else you would like to share with our viewers today, or do you have any questions for me?
So I would like to share our annual report hot off the press. And so I'm just going to hold it up and thank you for providing the link to folks. And so it is 40 years of impact. And so we're excited to share that with you. But I would come back just to ask you in terms of your favorite spot in Wellington for so many of our listeners who may not be as familiar with Wellington. What would you suggest they check out as they're heading south on 58?
So, as you're heading south on 58, I would say in Wellington, if you have watched my episode with Mayor Hans Schneider, you would learn that I love the wings at Red Iron. They are for the last 2 years in a row the king of wings, and I love them. My wife and I included, and a lot of my friends will get together and get wings there because they're so good. But I love the coffee and the breakfast at Bread and Brew. And before the pandemic, I was there several days a week, enjoying the coffee there, and it was a great time. And I have been back sporadically since the pandemic started. So, but working from home more and keeps me in my kitchen making coffee a lot. But I love Bread and Brew.
Well, and it is interesting continuing to find ways to support our local establishments. I know that in Oberlin, the FEV is not yet open for business, yet we can support them through takeout.
Right.
And I know that in downtown Oberlin, there's some outdoor seating now available. And so how do we continue to support our local main streets and our local businesses who really do make a difference in each of our communities?
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, Cindy, thank you so much again for coming on the show today. Thanks for all you do to support our community at large, for your partnership with Main Street Wellington and our community down here, with all the work that you guys do to help us strengthen the spirit of Wellington. Thank you so much for that. And again, for all of our viewers, our listeners watching or listening to us wherever you are in the world, I just want to remind you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel here so that you can stay informed about all of our upcoming content. Also, please do comment on our videos to let us know what you'd like to see on future episodes. I just want to thank you guys all for tuning in to another episode of Afternoons with Anthony, and we will see you next time.
Be well. Peoplewhocare.org. Thanks, everyone.